Yeah, there's no question about it, Roee, and thanks for having me back. I mean, it was basically a perfect storm with the workforces having to build home offices and work from home, the schools with remote learning. People switched from mass transit to cars overnight. They wanted the social distancing. And then you had a construction and a business boom for pickup trucks, for equipment from Caterpillar, from Deere for construction. And then you had the 5G rollout, and top that off, you had a crypto mining craze all happening at one time. So that's what's created this short-term bottleneck.
So what industries globally are most affected by the chip shortages? I mean, we heard about some of them in these last two reports.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. The focus is on the automotives, but when you step back, the automotive is about total semiconductors affect about 12% of U.S. GDP. But as far as the total industry, it's $442 billion semiconductors is. You could compare that to the GDP of Ireland or the market cap of Walmart. Cars is less than 9% of that, so just under 40 billion. And part of the problem is that cars use less sophisticated chips that are older in nature, 10 years old technology. So the companies like Taiwan Semiconductor that are the biggest, they're focusing on the high margin 5 and 7 nanometer chips for graphic processing units, et cetera. And there isn't a lot of supply available for these older chips. So either we need more of the foundries to focus on the old chips, or the car companies need to use more advanced chips moving forward. But we'll see this get resolved. But it has been a huge impact. The head of Volkswagen is expected to lose about 3.9 million units of sales, less than they expected at the beginning of the year due to the shortage. Ford sales were down 27% in June, not because the demand's not there, because they couldn't offer the supply. Even China, the #1 car market, was down 5.1% in the month of June. So it's having a big impact. We're seeing Deere's CTO came out and said he thinks it's going to take 12 to 18 months. Intel's CEO said it's going to take about 2 years. But as your report said, Goldman Sachs, the acute phase we're probably at the acute phase. And certainly we'll see shortages in the second half, but it'll start to work through in 2022. And you are seeing the government start to invest huge. South Korea committed to $450 billion over the next 10 years. US has that $52 billion bill you referenced, and the EU's committing to $160 billion over the next handful of years. So what is currently a shortage due to this perfect storm could wind up, believe it or not, 3, 4, maybe 5 years out, becoming a glut, as we see in many semiconductor cycles throughout the last few decades.
Yeah, oftentimes you have this case where a pendulum swings one way and you end up going back to the other extreme, but President Biden wants to invest in U.S. manufacturing of made-in-America chips. How realistic is that? Will they be making these 10-year-old chips or the more advanced ones that you mentioned?
Yeah, I think both the car companies and the manufacturers are going to move towards the advanced chips over time. You are seeing signs of that investment. So Taiwan Semiconductor is going to have a factory in Arizona. Intel's putting a $20 billion factory in Arizona. So I think this $52 billion, while it is a drop in the bucket, it's a step in the right direction to bring some of that production closer to home. Certainly, you're seeing the big investments in Asia. The Chinese government wants to become independent. So you're seeing in terms of semiconductor production in the next handful of years. So you're seeing big companies like Alibaba and Baidu start to invest in developing their own AI chips. So I think everyone's focused on solving this problem. I think we're kind of in the acute phase when everyone's kind of most worried and most panicked. But as we get through the next couple of quarters, you're going to see that supply come back online. We are seeing some of the pricing levels stabilize from extreme levels, and now we just have to look for those stocks to start to move up. We haven't seen that yet, but I would expect a quarter or two. It's going to get better, plus this investment is going to kick in, plus the new foundries are going to be coming online and fabs, and we'll get through this in short order.
Thomas.